Whoa, hello everybody. A lot of people here. Thank you for coming. Uh, it's great to have you here. I don't know if you know collisions. Someone of you don't know what collisions is. Okay, so I gotta tell you. For those who know, sorry. Collisions is a group. It's like a kind of community when we're trying to bring knowledge, but not only technological knowledge, not only technical knowledge, not only design knowledge, but skill knowledge. We're trying to bring a different kind of skill sets, of technologies, of everything, put it together and create incredible things. One of these things is made possible thanks to incredible people that it's come to help us, to help you, to bring you all the things they know. We bring here the design team of Cabify. We bring here uh, people of incredible startups of Spot Home, of a lot of places. And today we got a pleasure of having here the one of the person that created the Agile Manifesto. He's a chief knowledge officer of Wemanity, and we're really blessed and we're really thankful of having him here. He's Arie van Bennekum. Big applause for him.
Okay. Yes. Hey, very good. Okay, two things before I start. First of all, I want to wish you all a very happy new year. I don't know if it's Spanish tradition, if it's too late. In the Netherlands, it gets sort of, do you do this now at January 7th? But even if it was June 2nd, I wish you a very happy year, right? So I wish you very happy. And also, it's awesome, number two, that you're here. Because I just found out that you have a bank holiday. I was walking in the city this afternoon and I thought, geez, what's going on? Is so many people. Don't Spanish people work? Well, no, they didn't. At least not today, right? So okay, that's good. Hey, listen. I can talk for hours, right? I have a button on my back. You can switch it, and I can talk. But I think it's better if we do Q&A. So we have colors. You have the mic, right? It's somewhere. Oh, here it is. So just interrupt me at any moment to ask questions. If you wanna sing a song, we have microphones. You can sing a song as well. I won't because my singing is very bad. But I want to talk with you about. It said I saw it in the announcement. Like a lean startup organizations, and I want to start there because we talk about agile all the time. But what is agile, right? It's such a word, and I can tell you when we wrote the manifesto, there was already a different opinion from what people perceive as being agile today. And it's because of a lot of reasons. So what I would like to do now is, because I made a change in 1994. Maybe some of you weren't even born at that time, right? But I made a change in 1994 for a reason. I want to share that reason with you and what made me, because if you're going to change and people around you don't understand you, people don't like to change, right? So you're a bit lonely. And I wanna explain to you why I perceived in that change. And then I was very happy in 1997 to join a company that was extremely open to change. Nowadays, we would say that company was agile on the inside. I want to share some of those experiences. And we had a massive growth in 2.5 years from 0 to 700 people, all autonomous growth. And I want to explain you how it worked. I want to give you best practices. I'm not telling the truth because I don't think the truth exists, but I just want to share with you, how you can make it work and pitfalls that you have and what you need. And if you're your own particular situation and you have a question, ask the question. Okay? Is that a deal? Yeah. Thank you. My God, it's Monday. You're even responding, right? Sometimes I have groups at Monday morning and you ask a question, it's like, you can only see eyeballs moving. Okay, so. Hey, listen, I want to tell you, let's start with my story. I'm born in 64, and I see some people with gray hair or no hair in the audience, right? So I think you know what I'm talking about. I was 15 years old, and I knew how I wanted to spend my professional life. I wanted to be a midwife, delivering babies. That was my choice. So at the age of 19, after high school, there was a bachelor program to become a midwife. And I joined the program, and after a year and 3 years plus, and after a year and a half, I thought, no, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. Awesome, but I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. And in the Netherlands at the time, we had what we call the tour of duty in the army. So I had to go into the army as a platoon's commander. And I remember it was like, first 6 months was going into training. And after 6 months, my drill sergeant said to me, I had to be a platoon's commander. He said, you're not going to make it. I said, interesting. Why? And he said, no panic, guys. And I said, why? And he said, you're doing it the wrong way. I said, okay. What do you mean by the wrong way? Not as it's written in the book. We had a book. Everyone had the book with them. This is how you are a soldier, how you do things. Totally prescribed. But I did it the way I did it. And everyone was happy at the end, so it wasn't that bad at all. And on January 1, 1987, I started as a COBOL developer, writing code. Right? And I thought after a while, doing this, I thought, But one of the things that happened to me was I got into a program of the National Tax Agency in the Netherlands, let's say the IRS. Right? If you characterize the Spanish tax agency, what kind of words would you use? Sorry? What does it mean? Yeah, okay, that's the word for the company. But if you characterize the organization, what kind of words would you use? Complicated. Thank you very much. Yeah, that seems to be all over the world. Every kind of IRS is the same. I had bureaucratic, extremely, and very silo-oriented, right? And I don't know about you, but normally, let's say it's not unusual if you go into an organization and you are new in the organization. There's always someone who is there for a longer time, and you follow the person that's in the organization for a longer time because he or she knows how it works in the company, right? So they tell you how it has been done for the last 25 years and how you have to do it, right? That's most of the time what happens. So I came in at that moment in time.
Okay, that is.
Okay. Yeah, against my beard, right? It's going back. Okay, so whoa, what a sound. So I got into the tax agency and I just sat down and I started doing what they told me to do. And I was a technical designer. Who of you knows what making a technical design is all about? Nobody. Hey, I can make a fortune here in Spain, I think. It was at that time, and also remember this was 1994. I came in the morning into a building. There was a hallway, there was a little room, and there were two other people. The three of us were together, the technical design team. And next to us, there was a room, three other people, and there were the functional design team. And they made a document. And then I got a doc, and this was really like a document, paper printed. And then from one of them, I got a document, and I had to translate that to another document and hand it over to someone else. And after a while, because you start doing it, because you're new in the organization, there's always the older guy. Don't listen to older guys, right? But it was the older. So they told me what to do. But after a while, I thought, that guy over there, the developer, he can read that document. So what am I doing here? What's my added value? Because I don't know why you stand up why you get out of bed in the morning. But if I got up, like 6 in the morning, 6:30, you're in the car for an hour and a half, and then you work for 9 hours, and then you get back in the car for an hour and 15, hour and a half. And then I was still married at the time, 2 boys. And then your wife is asking you at the dinner table, so what did you do today? Well, no, basically nothing. I don't feel happy. That's my personal thing. At the end of the day, I want to feel I did something. I saw recently, if you're from the military or not, but there was this little video on Facebook. Maybe you've seen it. It's an American general. And he says about, get up in the morning being proud of what you've done. So if you get out of bed, just make your bed. That's your first success of the day. Now, we might exaggerate a little bit, but on the other hand, at the end of the day, I want to say, okay, this is what I did. I delivered something, like value for my client. And I identified for myself in that process was basically very traditional waterfall, sort of traditional managed project process. There was no value for me, no delivery, zero. So again, I took, this is my life, right? And I thought, I'm not going to do this. And I think at that time, if I would have called my wife and said, honey, listen, I'm now going to the office and I'm going to tell that I'm not going to do this anymore, she would have a heart attack, most likely, because, we had a mortgage and 2 children and that kind of stuff. But I just took the car, went to the office, and I said, this is what I'm not going to do anymore. And to be honest, I don't know what I want to do because I don't know what's out there. I only see that this is not working, not delivering value, way over time. I was spending, that's how it felt to me, I was spending public money. And I think it's below my ethical morale to spend public money for nothing. I don't mind spending public money if it delivers value, right? And then one of the managers, because we had 6 managers at the time, and one of them, within a couple of days, he gave me a call. He said, I've got something for you. And this was my change. But if you listen to my story so far, it was my decision when I was 15 years old to do something, because being a midwife in the Netherlands still is a female job. We can talk about the Netherlands being tolerant and, the emancipation and everything. It's a women's job in the Netherlands, whether we like it or not. So at that time, this is the late 70s, it was very strange that I made this decision. But it was my choice and nobody else's because it's my life, right? And in the army, the same thing. And again, when I started going into development and making this one also, later on, I had my company, I just gave it away because I found out I don't want to have my own company. I just gave it away. Those are choices. So I believe you're the architect of your own life. And if something in your life, if there's something you don't like, do you know those people when you have a birthday party or you're in the pub, right? And they can complain about the company where they work. And then you ask, hey, how long do you work in your company? 22 years. So you're fucking complaining. 22 years long. What's going on here? You are the architect of your own life. So if you don't like it, or if you see a better process, it's not always negative. You see better things. Either you accept the way it is and you stop complaining, you change it, or you leave. Because you cannot change mountains, right? Sometimes you say, I'm just on my own. And I made this decision to do it like this. And I always say in 1994, the experimenting started and it never stopped again. I have those funny situations where people ask me, about agility. Say, we were waterfall working, and now we are going to agile. And they talk about agile as if it is an end state, but it's not. The only thing that what you do in working agile is that you accept that from now on things will continuously change because we do continuous improvement, continuous learning. Right? That's what we do. There's not one thing. And when you talk about agile, I think when I was doing this in the late 90s, it was about working different in small teams. But around us, we had full organizations with bureaucracy and HR processes and targets and bonuses and contracts, of course, and all those processes, right? And I think it starts in the team. And maybe you can call that Agile 1.0 or something, I don't know. And then you can go to, okay, maybe technology is 2.0, and then changing bureaucracy is 3.0, and changing your HR model is 4.0. I don't know. Maybe another order, but this is what it's all about. Now the question, let's first, because lean starting up a company, why? In 1994, when I started working differently, I was trained by people from the company of James Martin Associates. He was the author of Rapid Application Development, one of the very early versions of what we call Agile today, right? And if you look at Agile today, I would like to make this one. I hope you can see it. If you say let Agile, because some people say we are using the Agile method. Good news, doesn't exist. Just so you know, right? Agile is a concept. And I was working in a different way since 1994. I cannot speak for the others because I don't know exactly, but I do know that what I used at the time, DSDM, was published in 1995. The first version, February 1995. I know Extreme Programming is published in 1998. Scrum is published in 1995. I don't know, right? So we had, when we wrote the manifesto, there were 17 people, and there were 13 different methods in the room. And what we tried to identify is, okay, what do we share? And that was Agile, that was the manifesto, right? So I like the word agnostic. And agnostic for me means, from all the methods, you use what helps you best. You're not bound by one method. For me, a method is like a center of innovation. So you do extreme programming, new technology comes in, maybe you have a new practice tomorrow. Awesome, great. Publish it on the web, we have a new practice. Right, so for me, agnostic is the whole thing. Then we have next to it, we have the concept, we have the methods, and in the methods we have the practices. Just to give you an idea, the daily, I think in DSDM we call it the daily achievement meeting. In Scrum, it's the daily Scrum. In extreme programming, it's the daily stand-up, I think. And in other methods, they have even another name. Different methods, same practice, right? And if you're a smart ass, you take, like cherry picking the practices that help you most. And when we wrote the manifesto, when you talk about organizations, because I didn't finish my story yet, but I want to talk about where did I go? Because in 1997, I switched to another company. And that company, if you want to read an interesting book about how you can run organizations in a different way, check Semco Style by Ricardo Semler. It's an awesome book, very inspirational. And I was working with a couple of guys in 1997. They said, okay, this is how we want to run the company. Take in consideration, this is before writing the Agile Manifesto. Okay? So I was doing rapid application development, and then I joined them in 1997, like 20 people. That's what we were at the time. Rapid application development, DSDM, getting in. What happened to me is that I started using rapid application development and DSDM, but also the things of Ricardo Semler. So that has been flowing back into the Agile Manifesto from my side, right? I'm not talking about Ward Cunningham or about Ken or Jeff, those people. This is from my side, what I brought in. And if you look at Agile working, we had people focusing on large groups. Again, in the 90s, we all started working in a different way. Large groups, on teams, and on pairs or individuals. And we had people focusing on how can we improve the quality of the software code, because we had a very software focus when we wrote the manifesto. You talk about efficiency, how can you work in a more efficient way? Because I can tell you the thing what I was doing at the tax agency in the Netherlands was very inefficient, but also it was about delivering value. And this was for me the most important. How can I deliver value? Because I don't mind if I have an extra bug. I don't mind if sometimes it's a little bit efficient, as long as it helps my client, internal or external client. And then you can see, okay, so we have the different methods. We all know Scrum focus on the team, stream programming, a lot of pairs. DSDM was here. I think you can say that, for example, Lean, you can do personal Kanban and Lean if you like, right? That's fine. And for me, Adaptive and Crystal are here. These days we have SAFe and we have LESS, right? Those are methods, centers of innovation. And this is where you can get your practices. And I seriously mean, if you use it, and tomorrow with your team you do a retrospective, and you identify a very handy practice, publish it and transfer it to others, right? Don't let people reinvent the wheel. In 1994, the people from James Martin said, hey, listen, if you're doing a project, we're talking a lot of projects at the time, don't make the project longer than 6 months, because after 6 months, the world will change. That was 1994. And if you see how we work today, the change in the world is so much faster because of technology. Technology goes in such a pace, it's amazing. At the time, we had the desktops, the IBM PC, AT, XT, in the early 90s. And every 2 to 3 years, there was a new model. You hear my words? Every 2 to 3 years, there was a new model. If you look at your phone, everyone on your phone or your tablet that you have, right? I have an iPhone X, an iPhone 10 at the moment. It's a year old. You start looking for the new one, right? Because it's better and whatever, This is the thing. And the point is, in the way we work, that's one side. In existing jobs sometimes disappear because of technology, but very often existing jobs are made easier, faster, better because of technology. But there's one thing that technology also does, and this is where lean startup comes in, where fast growth comes in. And that's that technology offers us new business models, totally new businesses. I've been told, I didn't check the numbers, but I've been told that the professions that we have at the moment, 90% of the professions that we have didn't exist 100 years ago. I think it's shorter, but just to give you an idea, and I think 20 years from now, we have the same numbers. That's not the truth, that's what I think, right? And that's where we are. Technology does something, and technology will never change in terms of that it will go slower. So the pace of change will only go faster. So the pace of opportunities and innovations will only go faster. If I check at Uber, I was arriving at the airport this morning, and it said Uber in Spanish is Uber. And we are at 500 airports. And I'm very happy with Uber, some places in the world, but I can tell you, if it was up I'm from the Netherlands, right? If it was up to the Netherlands, Uber wouldn't exist. You know why? Because we have a system and the taxi profession with permits that you have to pay a lot of money as a taxi driver, so they are protected. This is what happens, right? But then it gets somewhere else. And my point I want to make is, so we have technology that made jobs faster, better, easier. We have technology also offering new opportunities and new business models, totally new. But also we have technology making sure that globalization brings things into your environment that maybe 20, 30, 40 years would not have been possible. So you can deny it's there, but that denial will make you a dinosaur, and dinosaurs die. Very simple. Maybe you heard that in the world of agile transformations, one of the banks in the Netherlands, ING, is having a pretty worldwide, pretty well-known position. And the phrase that I like a lot, that I heard from the top over there, is, we are not a bank. We are a tech company in the financial world. And I think just having that, it's just words, I know, but just having that perception means that you are changing the way you perceive how you run your operations, how you recruit your people, how you support your people. I don't even want to use the word manage your people anymore, right? Things change. So the statement is, lean startup company means that you're agile on the inside. And it's not agile because I happen to be in Salt Lake City in February 2001. Agile as the mindset, which means that you are adaptive and responsive to what's happening out there. That's for me what agile means. And how you do it, it's up to you. I don't care. As long as you are responsive to what's happening and you're able to adapt your organization to new opportunities. I realized a couple of months ago, TomTom. You know TomTom, the navigation I've said in the past? Who of you had a TomTom in the past? Who of you bought a TomTom the last 2 years? Yeah, I'm sorry to say, it's a Dutch company, right? It hurts. But this is what I have my golf watch from TomTom. I have the version 1. I think you have version 3 or 4 in the meanwhile. You don't use it, right? The 1 is good enough. That business model of the navigation, satellite navigation, is gone. The business model is gone. And we know in the banks it's gone. We know insurance companies is gone. So it means that, those businesses have changed. New opportunities have arisen. And this is where you need to be able to respond. And this is where agility as a company comes in. And that means that you have to find a way to, if you see, this one place in the market where you think, hey, this is interesting, this is where I can make my money, that you have to find your way how to build it, how to bring it in the market. And if it's successful and it starts growing, that you don't fix your organization, don't freeze your organization, but that you understand that whatever business that you do will change much faster than ever, so that you have to keep your organization into this responsive and adaptive modus. And I think that's what we need to talk about. This is the real challenge for any kind of organization. Now, the big problem is it's also the challenge for you and for you. Because if you're in an organization that grows and you're successful, so you grow more and you grow more and you grow more, what we tend to do is we read management books, managementbook.nl, right? Awesome. But you know what most of those books talk about? Old school stuff. And before you know it, you're bringing in old rituals. One of the things that I want to give to you is the word, and I know you heard about the word, but I want to talk about it a little bit. The word paradigm. Who knows what a paradigm is? And this is not an exam, right? Trying to get the interaction going. What's a paradigm? Oh, you're all smart asses. Come on. I see someone totally in the back. Yeah, me. Come on, what's a paradigm? Okay, this is your first learning moment of the evening. I would like to say it's a perception. It's a perception. And the point is, what I mean with paradigm, I want to give you an example. A paradigm is something that you do by nature. What paradigms do is they define your reflexes under stress, because this is how you perceive the world. I was in Germany at a tech company, and there was a big room, 100 people, so more or less like 15 teams working. And I happened to be like over here in the corner, and behind me there was a door. And the door was the stairway up to the managing director's office. One of those beautiful German mahogany leather 3-meal courses over lunch director's offices, right? And over there was the door to come into the room. So over there I see the big boss coming in, Germany, 2 meters, blonde. So he walks in, and I see 100 people looking at, so they're working like this, and I see 100 people looking at him. And it goes like this, right? So he's like, following, and then he's talking to someone a couple of minutes, and behind me, he took the door and he went to his room. So I said to someone, what's going on? And the guy said to me, I said, it's very simple. If he comes into the room, what will happen is that he has worked for some one of us. We know. He comes in if there's an emergency. Okay. And then what? So everyone was like, is it me? Is it me? No, it's not me. If you read a little book about concentration, we all know that if you are concentrated working and someone breaks your concentration, it takes 20 minutes to get back, right? Paradigms, right? I'm talking about the paradigm. So I went up to his office, and he's a very nice guy. Very nice. I said, what were you doing? He said, what do you mean? I said, you walked into the room, right? He said, yeah. I said, why? And he said, it's so important. Paradigm. I said, okay. Is it so important that you just ruined a working week, full-time equivalent working week? He said, what do you mean? So I explained him, 100 people, 20 minutes. And then some people just 20 minutes and they're back in the concentration. But the other ones, after 20 minutes, said, oh, let's start Google, let's get a coffee, let's go to the toilet, right? Smoke a cigarette. So that took much more than 20 minutes. I said, what you could have done is, because we were doing an agile transformation over there, what you could have done was go to the outside door, go up to your room, think about what's the emergency, who's the scrum master, get the scrum master in your office and talk with the scrum master about, I have something for the fast lane in your team. So now instead of disturbing 100 people, you disturb only one. And it changed after this. But this is what paradigms do. And it's about paradigms about documentation. Paradigms, if people bring in a new requirement, do you really need it? Yeah. If the business brings in a new requirement and you ask them, do you really need it? They have two answers. Yes and yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes and yes. The paradigm is what comes to my mind is important. We don't do value thinking. So one of the other paradigms is value thinking. For those of you who do Scrum, I think a lot of people do. Now there's the idea, if I go into a sprint with my 8 stories that I selected, those are the 8 stories that I have to deliver at the end of the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever you do. I mean, it's very simple. If you're halfway your sprint and you pop up with a very, very valuable change in one of the requirements that not been developed yet, or that's what, then you change, and then the 7 to develop, you take it out, you bring the new one in. For me, it's fine. As long as you deliver more value, I'm happy. Right? We don't. So what you do is you have to, from requirements to value, you have to do a paradigm shift. In documentation, from writing, like I was doing at the IRS, making all those documents, we have to let go of the document thinking. It doesn't mean that we don't make documentation. Don't get me wrong. But we document in a different paradigm. Paradigm is documentation is the same as MS Word or Excel. There are other ways of documentation, because documentation, I think, is structured information that is easy accessible, up to date, and maintainable. And it doesn't say MS Word or Excel or PowerPoint. Those are the paradigms you have to change. So the point is the other way around. If you read those management books, old paradigms come back. And of course, there are people who have visionary stuff about new ways of thinking and working. You're going Apollo, Management 3.0, that kind of stuff. Awesome, right? But don't let you get yourself be pushed into old paradigms. Always be aware. So what you need to do is, if you go into the world where we are today, where the things are changing so fast and you have so many opportunities, because we have so many opportunities. TomTom, this is the laughter of the century, right? TomTom starts. A couple of years later, it's sold. I think the owner, the original founder of TomTom, I think I saw something that said 250 million euros, right? And now it's almost gone. So he was very smart. So you can do stuff. So you have to facilitate growth. You have to facilitate innovation. I was talking to the gentleman in Germany that I was just talking about, the tall guy. And he said, Arie, we are, as a company, we need to be agile, because what agile will bring us is efficiency. And the time that I save, I will use for innovation. And I'm a tech company, so that innovation will be my lifeline. That's the kind of thinking. Let go of all processes, like a proof of concept that takes a year and a half. By the time the competition left, right is already passed by. So you really have to pay attention to those kind of things. Now, what do you need to have that kind of organization? My question now to you is a question. What do you need? If you want to be an organization that is able to respond to what's happening out there, that keeps on going on, I think continuous innovation should be part of a company organization, nature, continuous innovation. What is continuous learning? What do you need as a company to make that happen? Yeah, because I think, we're going now to continuous learning. That's not difficult. We can do that, right? It's not a personal development plan with a training a year. But continuous learning means retrospectives, lessons learned, and maybe in the retrospective for you specifically, there's something to say, hey, this is where I need to learn it. But maybe for you as a team, hey, we as a team need to, and then in the next sprint, we take the learning in and we improve, right? That's one thing. But how come that this, what happens is the manager will say, hey, listen, I understand this continuous learning thing, but there's a lot of pressure from the business. So we skip the learning this sprint. We do some extra delivery. And the next sprint, people don't do a retrospective anymore because you're not allowed to pay it. And the point is, I meet people, especially old guys above 50. I'm sometimes ashamed to be this age, right? They are proud that they work the same for the last 5 years. And I think you should be ashamed if you do that, because they're asking every year, they're asking for more money, for a salary raise, doing the same. That's odd, right? Where's your improvement? Right, that's the kind of thing. So mindset is the word. And mindset is the most complex thing, because that's about changing a whole set of paradigms. Now, the good thing is, If you are starting up a new company like Uber or Google or Yahoo or the TomTom, awesome, because you don't have a heritage. I was working with a guy from Italy, and he said, I'm trying to do Agile. I think he said the oldest bank in the country, it was over 350 years old. You know what that means? Over 350 years old. So people establish a way of working. People establish a way of, doing documentation, decision-making processes. And you're young, so you come into the company, and a couple of old guys said, hey, this is how we do it for 350 years. I said, I have a great idea. Yeah, No. This is how we do it. And it stays. So the older the company, that's a general rule of thumbs, not a fact. But the older the company, the harder it gets, because the paradigms are deep down in the bones and the veins of the company. But I have also been, who of you isn't really an agilist, agile working? Come on, who of you is an agilist? Okay, so yeah, thank you. The point is, we deliver, right? One of the things you deliver every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every sprint you want to deliver. So I was talking to a company somewhere in Europe, and said, hey, Arie, we're a digital bank. We are a very young organization, 20 years old. We are very agile. That makes me happy. If a company says we are very agile. So, and I had an in-company talk, so you get those Skype preparations, and I already had 4 preparation talks. I thought, detailed design up front here, what's going on? And then I asked, someone in one of those conversations, okay, so you're very agile. So what's your delivery cycle? And they said once a year. Whoa, being able to respond. Right, okay, that's a point. Right, so the point is, the older an organization, the more difficult it gets. But if you are a young organization, things can easily go wrong. So if you ever start up an organization and you get successful, and you think, I need some extra hand in the company now, to manage the whole organization. Can I ask you one thing? Sorry for people with gray hair and a beard, right? Very sorry. I don't say that you don't hire them, but be extremely careful, because old guys are the worst. They bring in the bad stuff because they pretend to know. And the only thing they do is they repeat, right? And I think repetition is the one that kills you. Innovation is the one that saves you. And when we were I was joining in March 1997 a company in the Netherlands called Solvision. And this is where the company I just talked about was based on the concept of Ricardo Semler. So we started growing 24 to 50. And 50, I don't know, I didn't know at the time, but it seems to be that if you're at a company at 50, this is where you start not knowing all the names. Right? Because normally if you're 20 people, you know everyone by name, all the faces, but above 50, you walk into a meeting, like, who the fuck are you? Right? And then it's sometimes what happens is that, I recruited him. Yeah, okay, you're somewhere else, right? You don't know. So you meet someone for the first time. But then it was 150, and then it was 200. And then someone said, that's Solvision. This IT consultancy, great stuff. But, we are change managers. So we want to have a new company next to, so we had Change Vision. And then we had the people say, we have the IT consultancy. We are the ones that make it happen. So we are the cracks. So we had the developer group teams that were cracks. So that was company number 3. So we had the Vision Web. And I think still if you Google, you can find even books in English about it. But by that time, it was 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. And there was never buying another company. It was always autonomous growth, recruiting people, friends that you think, okay, does this person have the mindset to join us? You don't have to know, but you have this open learning, reflective attitude. And if you keep those people in, it's awesome. We have in the Netherlands a saying, if you have a basket of apples and there's one rotten apple in your basket, it can infect every single other apple in the basket, right? So be careful. And I was making a joke about guys above 50, but it's a joke based on my life, right? This is what I know. So it's really, what you tend to do is the comfort zone is so simple. It's so easy to get there, right? So if you go into Agile, if you go into practices, if you go into learning, if you go into improvement, it's so easy to say, this doesn't work, right? So we step back and we take some old guy stuff and we do it, right? And I call it innovating backward. We need to innovate forward. And this is my point in growing organizations, in new organizations, you have to do it like this. So you have you have two options. If you're growing, either you bring in hierarchy, you bring in layers, you bring in silos, like HR and the lease car department and there's all those little departments, or you make small entities in your organization that can use facilities on the group level, but most of the stuff they do together. So what we try in Wemanity, if you find more about us, wemanity.com. What we try to do is working with teams that everything that doesn't have a legal stuff that's happening in the teams. So the learnings and the recruiting and the HR and how they want to work as a team, fine. In the Netherlands, for example, you have different laws than in France or in Belgium or in Luxembourg. So at one moment in time, if you recruit someone, there has to be a contract. In the Netherlands, you have at the Chamber of Commerce, a limited group number of people listed that sign contracts. The other ones are simply not allowed to sign the contract. Okay, then we sign. But this is how you try to bring as much work into the teams. Because one of the things in Agile that we know is if you take your own decisions, you feel ownership, right? But if your company tells you this is how you have to do it, it's like, hold on. You do it maybe because they say so, but you have no ownership. So if you want to have this young, vibrating energy, people need to feel ownership. This is my company. Without even having shares or anything, you have to feel this. This is your personal pride. Do you know Daniel Pink? Right? He says the things that he likes is autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Right? And if you autonomy, so you bring a lot into the teams, where teams can work. But also know, if I'm working on HR and we have this very special situation, okay, there are a couple of people on the group level and they know exactly how the law is. I need to have the knowledge, but I don't have to, apply it for everyone in exactly the same way. Autonomy. This is, okay, now we own. The mastery is, that the idea that you can continuously grow. In these kind of environments, I see people coming from the university 2-3 years becoming very, very senior people at the age of 27, 28. More senior than some guys of 57 never will achieve, by the way. And then also purpose. So if you have this little team of you with 10 people, and you're working in the big company, and this is your team, and you're doing on enterprise intelligence, sort of, this is what you do, and you can perform, and you can build, and you can achieve your own targets, your own purpose, whatever your target is, that gives you a pride. And as long as the target is also helping the company, you're fine, right? So you have the feeling that you're every day contributing to something that's valuable to you. And I see it very often, and I think governmental organizations and very large organizations have the same thing, that people lose the sense of responsibility. So if you want to keep that innovation, because innovation is what you do if you like what you do, but you think you can do it in a better way, or maybe you have a totally new idea. If you don't have that connection, you don't innovate. You go play football or whatever. Also nice, by the way, but talk at company level here. And this is what you need. So this kind of purpose, having, okay, people can build. So we have Thursday in the Netherlands, those self-organizing teams. We use a holacracy word. We use the word pod. We have pod sessions, for the next, let's say, year. Every pod will say, okay, this is what we want to do, and this is what we can, but this is where we need help. Right? Because we can make the silos, or we can just, as a group of people maybe more experienced, say, okay, if you need help, we can see who can help you out, maybe from another pod, or maybe someone from another country. And then the teams will go on their own. and they will have their own OKRs or targets or whatever you want to use, right? And then you go work some. But the point is, if you want to, what is it that you need to do? And now I want to hear something from you. So what we said is, as an organization, we have to be aware that technology is, because Agile is about software, it's about products, services, it's about delivery, right? And it changes a lot of business models. So things happening. Existing business models change, new business models comes in. So you have to take opportunities and you have to adapt what's already, in place in the organization. Maybe this one is even more difficult, right? It's okay, if you want to do that, you need to go to smaller teams where people feel connected and feel a purpose and go into this and start working. But you also need to have to change things in the organization on how we work. And what do you think are the biggest problems that you run into if you want to work? Especially if you're in an organization that is not agile by nature. Governmental organization, a bigger organization, somewhat older organization. What are the things that we run into that we have to change if you want to keep that spirit? Managers. Yeah. Carlos asked me, he said, what's your function? Are you chief? What chief something officer? I don't know what you asked. And I said, no, well, maybe I'm the chief knowledge officer or something. I don't know. I always ask people in Wemanity, if you have a good idea, please bring it regarding Agile, right? If you want to run the company in another way, if you want to run your team in a different way, bring it in. So that's where my knowledge stops. Right? So titles are up to there. But what do you need? Less managers. I don't think that, I know managing, facilitating people is awesome. What managers mean, in the old school words, that's the point, right? Is this, hold on, is this, right? So if you have an organization, right, and this is the organization, classical organization, and I meet it so often, so you have all those agile teams, doing the best, innovating, having great fun, and then here we have, even these days, because 15 years ago I was talking to developers, 10 years ago I was talking to managers, and especially from the CIOs, and today I'm talking to the board if I go into an organization. So this is cool, there's a sort of awareness here. And they have ideas, right? And they have things that they would like to see in terms of delivery. So they can, if they want to deliver, they can facilitate the teams, right? Managers, back to that word. Right there they are, the middle managers. You know how I call this? The permafrost. And now take this into consideration, because we can laugh about it. I do, by the way. We can laugh about it, make jokes about it. But here is the king of analysis, or here is the queen of testing, or the emperor of design, right? Those kind of people. And they are there. And you know why they are there? They work for 25 years hard in the company. So they deserve that position, including the bonus, the target, the car, right? The position. And you don't need those people anymore. If you go agile, you work end to end. So what you do is you make not all of those functions, but a lot of those functions, especially the way they are run, obsolete. Let me tell you something about those managers. They have a mortgage. They have children that go to university. Maybe those managers are fathers and mothers of you, right? So their fear is justified, at least a bit. And you know that some people are led by fear, other people are led by opportunities. But if people are led by fear, it's not that they talk rubbish. Their position is under pressure. Again, if you want to have this dynamic company and you start up young, you don't have those positions. So you don't have a permafrost. But people are champions in building in permafrost, even in young companies. I was in digital bank in another country in Europe, just around the summertime. And I sent an invoice, and we agreed that they would pay for our travel and stay as well. And they saw the name of the hotel that the agile coaches from Wemanity stayed in. And the response from the client was, that's absolutely absurd. That's only a hotel where our managers stay. And that scares me. because I don't mind I like being in a 5-star hotel. Don't get me wrong. But I prefer to be in a hostel and let my people who do the hard work day by day at the client side, because doing a change is fucking difficult, right? So they deserve a very good hotel and a very expensive breakfast, 29 euros for a breakfast. So you have a team of 6 going every morning for the breakfast. It's like, this is, yeah, so okay, they had a point, right? Okay. Okay, so the point is, if you want to have this kind of organization, you can change existing organizations, you can start a new organization, you can make a combination. So I have this existing organization that, hey, we have this great idea. What we do is we just start a separate organization next to the old organization. They can define, they can work. And what we will do is slowly, people will move from the old organization and get into the new organization. A lot of things happening. Wemanity has headquarters in Paris. I started with a colleague of mine, Lisette. We started in the Netherlands. I do now on the group level a lot of work. Obviously, I travel. The differences in countries and cultures, but also with the impact of the unions. I don't know about Spain, but the unions in the Netherlands, hardly any impact. I was talking to a gentleman from a big telco in Belgium, and he said, Arie, we are trying for 2 years to have the profile of an agile coach approved by the union. And now you want to be a lean startup company. You want to be responsive and adaptive. Forget it, right? So then maybe starting a new organization and having a process where people can make a choice. So it means also that you will keep a residue of old stuff, most likely old guys, right? Here. But it's a way of working. But even if you start, and that's what I want to give you, even if you start a new company, the risk of going down to bureaucracy and remote and written communication and detailed design up front, it's so big because it's the paradigm that we have. And we think if we write it down that all of a sudden it becomes the truth, and it's not. It's how you and I interact. That's the truth. Not how we wrote it down. You have those in the defense industry and you have those processes that need to be audited by Deloitte or those kind of companies. So you have very strict descriptions on how they should work. And then you see there every 3 years they're audited, approved, and certified. And then you change this a bit, this a bit. But then for 3 years we know how to work. If you go into the organization, people work differently. The only thing they knew is, sometimes you have to have a signature. They make sure that the signature is there, right? Then we have it saved. So there's a difference between. So don't spare time on writing things down. I know you have to obey the law. Okay, that's what you have to do. So I was agile as we are in Wemanity. We started up the Netherlands. We have lease cars, lease contracts per employee. We have a lease. So at that moment in time, we just started. And I didn't know, but I found out that only Jean-Christophe was authorized to sign. He's living in Paris and Brussels, in the Netherlands. So we were growing, right? And I signed one after the other lease. And then one moment in time, we had a lawyer, and he looked and said, hey, Arie, you signed this lease contract? Yeah, I did. Oh, well, if you ever have financial trouble, you can just leave it because your lease company accepted an illegal contract because your signature has no value. I said, excuse me? Okay, so this is also where you have to pay attention. Hey, I have a law, I have to obey the law, whatever, otherwise they get into deep trouble. Contracts with the client, contract with employees, contract with lease suppliers and providers, right? So you have to pay attention to this. And there's one more thing that I think that we should accept in the world of innovation. I was in Central Europe at the energy providing company. And I was having a breakfast in the morning, at Saturday morning, with the CEO. And this is like 6,000 people. And he said, Arie, would you like to join me after breakfast? Because we have a garage this morning. I said, you have a what? He said, that's what we do. Every Saturday morning, we have volunteers. They go together and they brainstorm about potential new services. He said, we are bringing energy into houses. Maybe 5 years from now, my company doesn't exist anymore in the way I am today, because people might have a solar panel on the roof or a windmill, and I don't have to provide them energy anymore. But what I do have, so I have to be prepared. And what I do have, I have an access to every single house in the country. I have cables going in. So I have an access to every house. So what I'm doing with the garage is the Jules Verne, he had a phrase for everything, the Jules Verne experience. 90 days from scratch to production. And of course, and this is my point, a lot failed. But some ideas got in and were really working well. And he said, I accept it now. 9 out of 10 ideas fail. But those that work well are on the market in 3 months. Right? That's the kind of thinking. So from trying to, if I go and then I do a little summary and then I hope you have some questions. Or you just run away. That's also great if you like. Technology is the game changer, right? Things go faster. Not just faster, but also it brings totally new business models. Technology also brings globalization. So if you don't take the opportunity, don't worry, the competition will. And before you know it, you're out of business. So you need to be able to respond and to adapt to what's happening out there. To be able to do that, you have to have, like capability to grow and to be flexible in the way you work. And you really, have to make sure that you can deliver continuous value. Therefore, you need really like things like self-organizing teams and people who have, the courage to make decisions, people who can accept, say, okay, things sometimes go wrong. It means that you change the way you do human resource management, the way you recruit, the way you have targets, the way, if you have individual targets, they will kill everything in your organization. Right, so it can be done, but in my opinion, if you don't change into an organization like that, if you start up an organization and you're not like that, you're going to lose. And the agile thinking helps. I'm not talking about specific, I'm not talking about specific methods, but it's the way you're thinking about being reflective, being open to learn. Accept that people don't have the magic words, but that the power is in working in teams that can, maximizing their efficiency and have, face-to-face communication instead of remote and written communication and decision-making layers of managers on the top, right? Allow your people to be agnostic. Let them use in the concept as many methods and practices as they like, as long as it helps them. Facilitate them in learning. Retrospective learning, improvement. Next step is innovation, right? You have to continuously facilitate that process. And then you get there. And then you can facilitate growth. We ask our teams in Wemanity to have their own retros and their own knowledge shares and to do innovation, to come forth. Because we spend time on it. Because we know that it's the lifeline for the future. For a company like ours. Agile coaches, 5 years from now, I don't know if they still exist, but at least it's very much different from what they are today, right? That's what we do. Training, coaching, and transformations on Agile. So also we need our innovation over there. So we'll leave it to the people. We're not going to tell what the next innovation is. We ask them to come up with the next innovation. Right? That's the kind of thinking that I would like to give to you. I did my talking for an hour, so now it's you. Come on. Yeah, sure. Yeah, the microphone. Oh, sorry. Yeah, oh, yeah.
I talk. Okay. So can you share us some concrete, some efficient way to change the mindset of those old people to agile mindset, because that's what I have been suffering for.
To change to do, let's say, an agile transformation. Yeah, I can. Let me. The point is, if you're going to do this, you change paradigms, right? Yep. I think we have a surprise here. Okay. I want to make. I try to keep it short. Metaphor. Right? It's Friday, 5 o'clock, and you've been playing football with your people. Green field, net, white lines, a white ball. We're playing football. And if you say Friday at 5, okay, guys, you're leaving now, it's weekend, you're going home. Dutch time, by the way, 5 o'clock. Monday morning, if you come in, you play volleyball. But volleyball is a green field, net, white ball. If you don't change the rules of the game, if you don't change the field, people keep on playing football. They will never start playing volleyball. So the first one that you do is you have to change the environment. So you have to set up a first set of agile practices that you want to use. I call it the agile stack. And you agree, this is how we're going to work. That's what it is. And for people, it's difficult. It's like learning to drive a car. You sit down the first couple of hours, you sit down, and people are saying, this is how it works. You have the signs in the street and the rules. You have to know before you go out. Even in an instruction car, you have to learn, at least in the Netherlands, you have to get your theory exam before you get into a car because it's way too dangerous, right? Okay, so you change the environment. We call this synchronize. By the way, if you want to know more in detail, because I give a very short answer, you can check integratedagile.com. Okay? Now the point is, now we know the rules, and we've been practicing. Thursday evening, 6, you're going to practice. Yeah, like my son is 22 now, but when he was 7, I was his trainer with his team. Football was in the weekdays, in the evening training on the rules. But then also you need to, you need to focus on the team. We call this follow. We say, okay, you've been practicing now, but now it's time to do this as a team. So we start doing, first little games. Now the coaches are very instructive and directive because people don't know the rails. Yeah, they know them, but they didn't apply them yet. And also old paradigms are very stubborn. So as a coach, you take a very, very directive approach. And then after a while, you can, what we call the lead, the teams take the lead. And this is where we focus in the transformation on the individuals, because in the past, you would have an analyst and a developer and a tester, and now we have multidisciplinary people who know everything. So people need to be educated and trained, and they need to get their learnings within their ambition. Right? So we now give people individual attention. Okay, so what do you want to do? Want to know some extra about testing, or what do you want to learn? What's helpful to the team? Now we work in sprints, 2 weeks. And then, so we've done now for 12 weeks. And then we have what we call handover. And we sit down with the team. Say, okay, you've done it now for 3 months. You had a coach. Now you're going on your own. But it's like you just had your driver's license. Do you have your driver's license? Okay, so do you remember the first day that you had your driver's license and you're going into a big city? Who knows? Who remembers? Sweaty back. It's like totally nervous. But now if you go into the city, you don't have that anymore, because the whole thing in the car, you do it automatically. They have become your paradigms. If you're here, it's like you just got your driver's license, not paradigmed yet. So the reflex, if things go wrong, and if you do things for the first time, they go wrong, and they are difficult, people tend to step back into the old things. And this is why we call it coaching on demand and give some extra attention. But this is how we approach it in the beginning. You had a question too, right? Yeah. Sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah. Well, also I wanted to ask that. Okay, I was more or less, trying that cycle,
yeah.
And I felt I was succeeding to change that, like CEO and another chief, leading a new product team. But I left the company 6 months ago, and now I work as a freelance a little bit.
Yeah.
And what I see is that they are going backward, like they are,
The place you left.
Yeah. So you came there with me. Now they are going back there.
Yeah, and this is exactly what happened to us as well. Because in the beginning I thought agile working is very simple. It's about the interaction rituals, like a daily and a retro and a heartbeat. It's very simple. How come the moment you leave, they go back? That's the paradigms. The paradigms suck people back into the old ways of working. So what we do is, before we go, we call this a wave, right? You have wave 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, because you have to do a whole company. Before we go into wave 1, and I make, because of 4 weeks, a 4-week program to develop a group of internal agile coaches. Because when we leave, we need people to sustain the new paradigms. Yeah. So if you want to have a very hands-on, if you go into a company, make sure that the moment that you leave, that there's someone who knows, someone who can do it, and someone who is trusted by both people there and people there.
Congratulations. I am 51, so imagine after your speech what is my situation. No?
Nice to meet you.
So I'm leading the digital transformation in Arbas. Okay, so we manage 4 nationalities. We have a lot of problem with the unions in Germany. We are now with the problem with the handover, with the cultural change. My question is related with the recruitment of the team. Our main priority is deliver a craft, and our HR policy is that the people who work producing a craft are really better valued than the people who work in innovation projects. Okay. So, what is your experience to recruit this agile team when the policy of the human resources foster more the people who work in production than really the people who work in innovation?
Let me make sure that I understand your question well. You're asking about how you can do it in the HR.
How do
policies.
you select a good product owner in a company
Yeah.
where the best product owner normally are the people who are working in
Yeah.
the operational tasks? Okay.
Okay, so I give you my answer. Before I give you my answer, I want to say if you do it like this, you have to take your HR department, if it stays an HR department, because you don't know, right? And in bigger organizations, you have. That's fine. But then they have to understand agile working as well. HR departments have to work agile themselves. They have the daily in front of their own board every morning, and they have MVPs if they do recruitment campaigns or whatever they do, right? So they have to understand agile working, doing it themselves. They have to understand what agile working. Now I'm getting to your answer. What it means from a professional that you get from not only from the outside the company, inside the company, but also people that are in your organization and that have to go through transformation. Where are they at the moment and what do they need and how can I provide it as an organization? In selecting, because that was the primary question that you asked, in selection, I would like to say it's not about knowledge, because knowledge is easy. We have smart people in the world, they can learn. But it's mindset. It's mindset and attitude. People need to be team players, collaborative. They need to be reflective. I always say, you cannot change another person. You can only change yourself. So if you do a retrospective and things need to be improved, look at yourself first. Okay, what can I do differently? People need to be open. They don't have to feel this as a failure. It's like, okay, I have to identify the next better version. That kind of attitude. People have to learn with, okay, I can do better. That's not a shame. I go to conferences to learn. I think I have something to say about agile, but every conference I go for learning. But most people feel learning, oh, are you going to tell me I didn't know? To be honest, yes. Right, and that's not shameful. So reflective, and then really open to change, because you don't define the way you work and that's it for the next I would like to give you also a mindset thing about in recruitment. I was in Romania in a company, a beautiful working space like this, and on the wall they had a quote from Winston Churchill. I don't know the exact quote, but it's more or less like this: perfection is not a state, perfection is an ambition. And to get to your ambition, you have to change often. So often change brings you to perfection. And if you just replace perfection by agile or whatever word you want to use, understand that it's an ongoing process. I was at the European Space Agency in the Netherlands. And the Agile Manifesto is 3 screens. The Scrum Guide is 16 pages or whatever, right? They had rewritten the internal way of agile working in 200 pages of A4. Okay, so that's, and then I always think, okay, where do I start? So the point is also in your HR department, this is what people need to understand first. So here, if I do this process where I, together with the client, we help them to identify potential, we help them internal, externally recruit if they ask us, if they want it. But also in this process, we take the HR people because they need to understand before anyone else what it takes. Is it helping you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for your passion. It comes to me in a very good moment. You are a very passionate man in the
Don't tell me ex-wife.
I will try. You were talking that in the 90s you were working for the public state, and you were feeling bad because you feeling like you were wasting the money, the public money.
Yeah.
What do you think about that new move about public money, public code?
I need a little
Maybe
explanation of that one.
Sorry?
Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a movement that says that if the money is public, comes from the public, the code is being writing paid by that money must be open source or free as well.
Okay. Agile is about transparency. Transparency is the key, because if we are transparent, it saves so much time, right? So transparency is number one. Also, I understand security. So, and I work with intelligence agencies in Europe, and I know the struggle they have. So in general, I would say yeah, but we have a lot of people and countries hacking other people and countries. So I'm a bit like this. On one hand, I want to share everything. Just go there and get it. But the point is sometimes you need to protect, especially now finance organization, decision making, the launch codes of the nuclear missiles, because they're still there, right? Those kind of things you need to. So but open source is in general, I would say I love it. That kind of approach. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So good.
Thanks. Well, I feel very connected to most of the things you said about how I've worked in old-fashioned companies, and I work in more like a startup company with super young people. So I feel very familiar with what you just said. But well, that set aside, I was wondering if in your experience you feel that there's some weight on culture, on a country's culture, in the way that a company accepts the process to become agile.
Oh, of course, yes. I not this kind of talks, but talking in front of groups how you can work in a different since 1994. And the worst one you get is, oh, that's an awesome idea, but it doesn't work for us. And then I say, oh, it doesn't work for you. Did you try it? No, but it doesn't work for us. And then it comes, it doesn't match our culture. And then I always say, well, that's awesome, because culture is an empty word. It's filled up by people and their habits. And people can change. Not that they like to change, but they can change, right? So this is what it is. Now, the point is, you want to have some sort of, I think this is what you're asking, correct me if I'm wrong. Can I identify what the mindset sort of like in this company? Yeah. So here, so you can find it on here, right? If you just go there, you can find it. Most of the time, I like to do an assessment. It's sort of a maturity scan. I defined 6, since 1998, I've been working on a model, and I just designed 6 organizational competencies with some sub-competencies. And I just go in with one other coach. We go into the organization for 2 weeks or something together, and might be 2,000 people. We talk to people, we talk to teams, we attend rituals, we look at the documentation, we attend management meetings and see how they work. And then we conclude, okay, this is where we need. And then you get your transformation backlog with epics and stories. HR is, of course, an epic, as you can imagine, right? There's a lot of epics on management level. Well, I want to say remove them, but that's not true. But there's, so you have, and I think the point is you can coach. And coaching means you go into an organization and you make them better in what they do. Or you can do a transformation, and then you can make them do different things. And I think if you want to help organizations to become agile, you really have to transform, and that's a tough job. And it takes time. And it's not, okay, we're going into transformation, in 6 months we're ready. ING started the transformation in 2012 and they're not finished. But it's also about what we talked earlier about. In the beginning, it was in the teams and the mindset and learning, Scrum and then extreme programming. And then we have to scale up and then technology and automated testing and integration and deployment. And right, it's every time there's something new. But this is when, so we look also in the assessment into technology. Okay, what do you have? Okay, we have all Kix, COBOL, DB2 mainframes. Then we have a little bit of an issue in deploying every 2 weeks. Okay, so we have to make a plan. It's not just mindset, it's also technology and architecture. Yeah. So just not like detailed design up front, but I have to know a little bit. It's like, you see it very often. If you football clubs, if they buy a very expensive player from another big, Manchester United buy someone from Barcelona or something, they have to be checked by the club doctor, how healthy they are, etc., because we need to know. Right. Good. Yeah, sure. It's not without the risk, right?
Okay, I go ahead. I want to ask you how dangerous could be for a worker being transparent in a corporation where he want to.
Now, okay, I'm going right back to you, because what we do is we look into organizations is how safe is the organization, because if the organization is not safe, people will not be transparent for their own good. Yeah. I was in one of the banks in the Netherlands years ago, and so you do your opening talk into transformation, and one of the guys, I never forget his name, Arthur, he looked me in the eyes, he said, Arie, so if I understand well in the teams, we decide on the requirements. We have that responsibility. I said, yeah. I was totally enthusiastic. Yeah, that's what we do. He said, I don't do that. And he said, I've done that once 7 years ago. I never do it again. Right? Okay, so yeah, that's an unsafe environment. In another company where I worked, where we did agile transformations, we had a bank somewhere in Europe where we stopped working and we got our people back, because it was almost up to the level of physical violence and really like sneaky behavior. I said, we are not going to expose our people to that kind of stuff. And then you can say, okay, whatever you do, with that management team, we're never going to do this. And you make a decision. Yeah.
How do you predict the agility in 5 years? Like, how agile will we be in 5 years?
I think for the maybe three things that will be very, very. So for the next 2 years, management and corporate agile. Managements have to accept that they have a role in working agile. Managers, top CMB level, make or break agile working, including the transparency, right? So that's one. So that kind of awareness. Then we have the corporate, because if you don't do it corporate, if you have a very agile IT department, but if I need to bring a new product into the market and marketing is not up to speed or business development is not up to speed, I'm still slow and my competition will be faster, right? So we need to do it together. Agile only gives you benefits if you do it together. So managers, do it all together. Next one. And then things like HR and technology will be really, the differentiators. HR, finding the right people, facilitating the people, and also technology, because I can deliver and deliver and deliver, but if I don't have my integration, deployment, and testing automated in place, I will be in deep shit, because the competition will, somewhere on the globe, there will be competition who has, right? So, is answering your question?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Hi. First of all, thank you for your talk, Arie. And my question is: do you think Agile is for a whole company in all areas? For example, sales area.
That's what I call corporate agile, because in the end, if you are a service provider, if you make software tools, whatever you do it as a whole. So everyone has to be part of that fast delivery, being responsive and adaptive. I want to give you an example. A client of mine in Central Europe, a lot of nearshoring to Central Europe. Client of mine, his biggest problem is a 1,000 people company, recruitment. If people come, most people within 1 or 2 years are out again. So the loss of knowledge is massive, and capacity. So he knows that his HR department has to be very responsive and adaptive in the demand, finding the right people, but also being able to deliver fast, to solve that problem for him. That's just one example. If you have new products going into the market, every new product has a marketing perspective, has a legal perspective, has to be taken into ops, and so dev and ops have to work. You do it together. And if you do, here we go, Agile 1.0, right? So if you take, that's fine in the little teams, but in the end, teams have to be able to do the full delivery. Yeah.
I don't doubt about the mindset, but what about methodologies?
Mm-hmm. What's
For
your
example,
question?
a sales team,
Yeah.
with daily meetings and
Ah,
Scrum,
yeah.
Trebus, and
If you have a big proposal, right? You do sales, you have a big proposal. Yeah, you have things to be made as part of the proposal process. You make your stories and your tasks, and you have a definition of done, and you have your daily. Yeah, absolutely.
thank you.
And one thing to give you an example, and then I go back to this one, right? So if you have a team that does a new MVP delivery, so they work for 6 or 8 sprints on a new product, they do a lot of work here. I had in the past 6, 7, 8, I was doing just commercial delivery projects. I would have 5, 6, 7 people, 80, 85 people working in parallel in different teams. So you're talking really here, and I was doing efficiency and value. That was my focus. That's what I was doing here. But if you have, for example, a service desk, tickets, like 100 tickets a day going in and out, you're much more into lean and Kanban thinking. If you have a quality issue, extreme programming in the code, extreme programming helps really well. So it depends a little bit on where you are. But again, go to the methods and the practices, be agnostic, and use to your benefit. Yeah, okay, good.
Well, thank you very much for everything. My question is about what do you recommend learning or studying to understand better business models, since they're all the time changing, and as well, since we're in a skilled meetup, what skills do you actually recommend learning for that? Normally people start studying an MBA, or normally people do a path, so you're focused on your strategy. This strategy right now is business models are changing very fast due to technology. So what would you recommend in that area?
There's not one answer. I'm sorry. If I was Harry Potter, I would have my magic wand, right? But I can't. What I always do is, if people ask me the question, if I go into a client side, always people ask me, say, Arie, what do I do next? I always start with, what do you like? And I'm not talking, what kind of program language do you like? But what is the thing that you like? Do you like to be behind your screen? Do you like to be in interaction with people? Do you like, where is it that you, and from there on, I can see, okay, what kind of role in an agile environment would you like? What kind of role in the company would you like? I'm half a midwife, turned out to be an author of the Agile Manifesto. No one ever said to me, this is your career path, right? And the only thing I can encourage you to, if you're learning and if you're getting there, and at one moment in time you're not happy anymore, you feel it here, identify, is it the structure that makes me unhappy, or is it at this moment a very specific situation because my neighbor is just an asshole and blah, blah, blah. I can solve that problem, right? That's the structure or the incident, right? That's where you go. And the moment that structure, take a decision, have courage. I like to say something like this one here, right? This is your comfort zone. And this is where the nice stuff happens. So be courageous. And what I would like to ask, it depends on what kind of role that you would like. Mm-hmm. But what I like for people to know, I like to lead groups. Facilitate people in getting out of that comfort zone. And comfort zones are very tough. Paradigms are very tough. I have agile coaches in Wemanity asking me for rules how to work in Wemanity. I said, you're not going to get them. And they get pissed off at me. So you're not if you want to have rules, make them for your team. But this team,
Yeah, but that
have their own rules.
I have another question
Yeah,
regarding
sure.
that way. Like, if you have a strategy, you need to execute it correctly. So my point was as well, like, how do you actually acquire those skills if you are not completely focused on that strategy, or that strategy changes a lot? You know,
Ah.
like,
This is the thing. You have to, because if the strategy changes, that's not the point, right? You have to do value thinking. And there's not a study, an MBA on value thinking. But that's, and I think that I don't have titles, but there are books that have this, because we fix the strategy for the next 3 years. I am okay if you fix your objective for the next 3 years, but don't fix how to get there the next 3 years in huge portfolios. And this is about value thinking. So if you set your value where you want to be at the end of 2020, right? And you can say, okay, I think now this is what I need. That's fine. You need to have a course, right? Set a direction, but be adaptive to change, and that kind of thing. So in a corporate environment, having the skill of workshop facilitation is essential, because they are trained to get people out of their comfort zone and to get creativity and brainstorming really going well. I want to give you a metaphor on this one that I really actually experienced myself. We were with a team of 6. We were sailing the North Sea. So you go from Amsterdam along the coast to Belgium, and then you cross to the south of England. And it was Friday evening, very late. We got into the harbor in the south of England. And then the skipper, were 6 on board, 6. And so you do watches in pairs, right? And I had the first watch, and we left at 1 at night. So Saturday morning, very early. Before leaving the harbor, the skipper said, hey, listen, now this is the value. He said, tonight at 8, Saturday, tonight at 8, we're going to have dinner in Normandy. That's the objective. That's where we're going. That's what we work for. So everything we do is focused on having dinner at 8 o'clock Saturday night in Normandy, Cherbourg Harbor. That's where we're going to be. Point is, it's a sailboat, so you look at the current and the wind and the tide and where you're allowed to go, because you cannot sail just everywhere you like. Right? And then they set the course, and the course looks like this if you look on the map, with a pencil. And I took the first watch with he's a guy from Switzerland. I don't understand Swiss people sailing because they have no seas over there, but okay, right? Okay, it happened. And I think it was like 5 or 6 or something, and we went to bed. At 9 or 10, I come on board, above deck, and the wind dropped. And I think this is a typical example. Now, if you stick to your project portfolio that you made in your strategy development, doing exactly what's in the portfolio and having a heavy change process to change things, most likely we would have ended up in Norway, right? Situation, the environment has changed, so you have to, and the team is self-organizing, they're experts, they know what to do. And the value, what you want to achieve, that you want to deliver, is still the same. Right? And then you say, okay, now we lower the sails, you put on the engine or whatever you do, right? And then you make a change. And I thought that this is really what it's all about, value thinking. And the initial course is just how to get there. And if along the way, and you will find along the way, things that are more helpful, then you do those. And that's a mindset. Now we're coming back to the word again. That we need to work on. And I know that in Wemanity we're closely working with a business university. And it's in France. It's the most well-known, so I don't know the name, right? But we are starting up an MBA this summer together with an Agile MBA to do this kind of thinking.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're coming to the back, right? I just saw hands waving like this. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. It's been really great. I can relate with a lot of things that you have said.
Good. Great, thank you.
It's just one question, maybe related to what the guy has asked, but it's about if you would recommend a book that you like, that you think that may help us to understand a bit more about this and to maybe try to get that mindset that we are talking about.
Yeah, and it's also answering the thing that we talked about. Ricardo Semler, Semco style. That's one. But also Jürgen Appelo, Management 3.0. Very interesting. Jürgen Appelo, Management 3.0. Yeah. Jürgen is, by the way, since a year also collaborating with Wemanity. He's from the Netherlands, right? So he just called me, can we collaborate? And I'm very happy to work with him. Yeah. So Jürgen Appelo, Ricardo Semler. I think there's someone over here, right? I don't want to kill anyone, so I come and bring it, okay? I think I'm not using it the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, there you are. Oh, you have a microphone.
I can use both.
Okay, take it with me then.
Yeah?
Just ask.
Okay, thanks.
Whoa, it's warm here. Phew. Okay, here we go.
Hola, hello. Okay. So thanks for your talk and all your insights. I work in an agile tech company in the financial sector, and today we are discussing the role of innovation, innovation department on the center of expertise to provide the best value for the whole organization. So based on your corporate experience, how do you see the role of innovation in an agile corporation, and how do you envision this role for the next 5 years?
I think there are two ways of innovation. The first innovation is the kind of innovation that you do on the products and the services that you deliver to your market. The second one is the innovation on how you work yourself. The last one is, I think, essential. This is the mindset that we talked about, that you go open in your learning, because there's no perfect state. There's only always a better state, right? And let's do that. Let's work towards it. I think the innovation in any kind of company is the make or break for the future. If you don't have your innovation process, it's a vision, right? And it's getting already more and more in place. But if you don't have your innovation process, including launch to the market, right? Including launch to the market. If you don't have that in place, you die. People say to me sometimes, because I like to have the Nokia example. In 2001, I was working with the Vision Web, 700 people. I think 695 had a Nokia, really. And we had a pub in the office downstairs, like a traditional pub. And we took one of those Nokias, we just put it in a glass of Coca-Cola. Disassembled it, rinsed it under the water, put it on the heating, wait a while, assembled it together. You could make calls for 3 more days. That was Nokia. Absolutely awesome. And you could play Snake. Awesome. And then Nokia died because of the introduction. They're still there, right? I know. But they almost vanished from the face. They were the number one, right? The number one. And they didn't make it because of the introduction of the smartphone. The Nokia success was a cell phone, which was a traditional phone, but then without a wire, right? Basically, that's what it was. And I always thought that they didn't have Nokia smartphones. They did. 2 problems in there. One, it was a closed system, not with the open apps that we have today, right? Very important. And 2, and this is the most important one, so you have your innovation, because there was a smartphone, Nokia smartphone, but they didn't want to put it on the market because they didn't want to cannibalize on their own product. And this, coming back to, do you do it all together? This is understanding that if I don't respond to what's happening out there, I'll die. Because there's someone else who will. And the funny thing is, BlackBerry took over. Who of you had a BlackBerry, the one with a trackball in the past, right? I had one too. And I thought it was bloody amazing. Because you were on those arrows, on your Nokia. And all of a sudden you could you could roll. It was awesome. One day innocent and you had an issue, but okay. I love my BlackBerry. And BlackBerry made exact the same mistake with the introduction of the touchscreen. And this is a corporate failure. And I think this is the most, so innovation is one, but then also means you have your own product, and maybe look at TomTom, and maybe you innovate something that is making your old product obsolete. Kodak, I think Kodak is the original inventor of the digital camera. But they didn't want to put it on the market because they want to sell their rolls of film. Yeah, come on. Like the rest of the world doesn't know this, right? You can't deny the things. And this is the point. So innovating, yes, and put it on the market. Is the answering the question? Good. And also continuously, you can also call it improving. But in terms of improving and innovation, I would like to say, because yeah, but we can improve, right? But I can tell you, we don't drive 130 kilometers per hour by improvement of a horse, right? Sometimes you have to do just new things, a car or a motorcycle, right? So that's very important to understand. Yes.
First of all, gelukkig nieuwjaar.
Hey, dankjewel. Dankjewel.
And one thing I wanted to ask you is that, I know we're talking about agile and paradigms, but somehow we always link agile with Scrum,
Yeah.
unconsciously. And, maybe in the last 8 years, I think Scrum has helped a lot teams and companies to be more agile and to be faster. But maybe, in the last few years, things are becoming even faster, with new technologies, continuous deployment and things like that. And sometimes I've seen experienced Scrum teams that, they know how to do it, but they don't do it anymore, sometimes like a 1 or 2 weeks sprint can feel really, really long time. Sometimes things get done on the same day. So what's your opinion about it? And do you think that, what's the next thing after Scrum? If we could say that maybe it's a bit dead. Or do you agree with that?
No, I have to be very honest. Okay, first, no, it's not that, right? It's the concept. It's not the method. It's the concept. Yeah.
Not sure if it switched off. Okay, now that's why I said I know I was talking about Scrum now. I didn't want to mix it with the concept of agile, but specifically, if you saw, because you are close to all these methodologies and stuff like that, if you thought there's something which is going to replace Scrum soon, or do you think it's still really relevant these days? With these things?
I think
because for example, the teams are becoming more self-managed teams, and also the role of Scrum Master in many companies are kind of disappearing because then the same team members are doing it. There's all these kind of feelings in the air. So I thought, well,
I think Scrum, what the power of Scrum is, it's very easy applicable in a small team. If you want to start there. It's awesome, right? It's great. I see people that are very dogmatic and they use only Scrum or only XP or only DSDM, and they even reject the other ones. Those are not agilists, those are assholes. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I think, did I hear? The point is, in your situation is, okay, I did my Scrum with my team, keep on doing the Scrum things, but now mix Lean, Kanban, DSDM, less, whatever you want, Agile Project Management Framework. Bring in what helps you, and keep on improving. If I would take on any kind of Agile MVP delivery now, I would use parts of Agile Project Management Framework. I would use parts of Extreme Programming. I would use parts of Scrum. I would bring things together. So that's for me very, very important. What I think regarding the future is technology will become more and more important, because if teams do Scrum, that's for me 1.0. But then you have to go up. We have to do quality. We do Extreme Programming. We have to do it together. Okay, so we have to find the connection. So we do integration or whatever you call. Right, this way. But at the same time, the more success that you get, the more important it becomes that you really do a delivery every sprint to production, because that's what we really want to do. And this requires also an investment in time and money and learning in terms of integration, deployment, and testing. I cannot do every 2 weeks a delivery on software code if I don't do automated testing. I will mess completely up. All right, so this is where you need to go. And I think if you're doing what you're doing at the moment, I know teams are sort of stepping back and they're doing. We don't do the retrospective. We do the daily once a week. Just think about that one, right? You can put that in a frame and hang it in the toilet so you can read it. But you have to stick. The success in Agile comes with the quality and the discipline that you apply using the Agile rituals, dailies, heartbeats, retros, and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't kill anyone, right? Yeah, I'm very happy with 2, but if people want to leave, they can just.
Two questions, one here and then.
Yeah. Three questions. Last 3 questions.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's a lady behind you as well.
I'm very new to Agile. This might be the 10th time in my life that I've heard in a corporate environment. I'm curious, and you might be suggesting that Agile could have saved Nokia and Kodak. How could have Agile saved them?
This is the value thinking. For example, I don't know the Kodak story that well, but what happened to Nokia and also BlackBerry is they were so in love with their own product that they, I don't know even how to phrase it, did not accept, did not see the real value that is the value request that's coming from the market. Sorry? Totally. Totally. And so here we have a product that's called a smartphone, and that will give people the opportunity not only to call and text with each other, but you can do email and we can on the internet. And there's also, I'm not going to make that one because I love my own cell phone so much. And I think the value thinking, it's not agile, right? But the value thinking in agile is sometimes you have to say goodbye to your own product. That's value thinking for your company, right? And I think from that perspective, agile works.
And you say, so then the solution is to release new products every 90 days, but say that I'm the CEO of my company. How do I allocate my resources in such a way that I am managing my resources efficiently if every 90 days I have to release a new product? Say, for instance, Kodak had their digital camera in place, and Nokia had their smartphone in place. Well, maybe it is not that they didn't see the opportunity. Maybe it's that they didn't know, or they didn't know how to allocate the resources. If I'm constantly releasing new products, how can I find the right product in which to allocate my resources and realize that the other 100 products are not viable?
No, I didn't say every 90 days new products. I was giving the example of the 90 days of an organization. So we do a 90-day cycle from scratch to production to facilitate innovation. And a lot of them won't make it because they just don't get there. But at least we tried. What you have to do now is, in terms of allocation of resources, stable teams is very important. But if you see a product that's in your market becoming very important, and you think, or an opportunity like the smartphone, right? So you're very good at making cell phones. Smartphone is a different type of product, and you don't have those resources. Find them or educate them. It's a different way of thinking. There's a way of thinking which I can, with my team, deliver what we are capable of delivering. Or, hey, in my line of business, it's very valuable to have now a new product. We cannot do this the way we are at the moment, so we have to change and adapt. And that's a way of thinking. I think in the past, in the Netherlands, we had the national phone provider in the past. We know dialing a number, remember? Dialing, right? My sons don't even know the word, dialing the number. Those phones, I think my mom had in her house the same physical phone for 15 years. Those phones have been produced for, 30 years, 35 years. That time is over. So the next one is, and then coming back to Agile HR, you have to understand that you have to have people in your organization that keep up with technology, because technology is the differentiator at the moment, right? And you have to have people that keep up with technology and that identify new parts of technology to see what's happening over there, how we can apply it. So I think more and more it's becoming important to be ahead, in front, instead of, you're in the adoption curve. You have the late adopters. As a company, you cannot be a late adopter anymore. And that's the point. And that's it. You have to go follow the value flow very fast. We have now 2 more questions to go, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the talk. It has been very inspiring. I'm an Agile coach.
How do you feel today? Because people say no to you all the time, right?
Yeah, a bit. And, I've been an Agile coach for 5 years. Working with teams is amazing, but when it comes to working with management, especially with top management, it's hard. They are super busy.
they seem to miss the point, right? Value. I would like to ask you for just a piece of advice when it comes to working with top management, especially.
Yeah, you want my advice?
Yeah, one piece of advice.
Physical violence. That's, the point is, one thing you have to accept. If they, no, a couple of things you have to accept. If they don't accept working agile, management layers, you'll never get past Agile 1.0, because the moment you get to, for example, reporting in an Agile way, documentation in an Agile way, that is the queen of analysis and the king of documentation, but you have to fight. And your top management has to break that permafrost. If they don't do it, you keep it, right? So they have to understand it. So I start in the beginning. This is why we had the question about how do you do maturity. I check, how is the management, perceiving things like Agile at the moment. So that's number one. And the next one is that you, if you go into transformation process, you have to take the managers first, because if you take them afterwards, so they have to know what it's all about and what the managers do. And later on, the organization can change, right? But they have to be one step ahead of the teams, because they have to facilitate them. And in my opinion, this is why I asked, how are you today? You have to accept that as an Agile coach, people don't like you.
Yeah, sometimes.
You're an asshole. You're changing my world.
Yeah.
I felt so nice in my comfort zone. Right? So this is your struggle. Right? Mm-hmm. So maybe you can make it, nice and easy and take cookies and candy with you. But
sometimes it works.
But this is really, so managers, you know what managers do? They only go where the success is. It means they need proof. So now you're tricky. That's manipulation, right? But if you can bring them proof, hey, this is an Agile team delivering success, that's where it starts. This is what I myself notice these days is that I now get requests from the top management. I'm sitting in the boardrooms these days, and all over the world. I'm talking to boardrooms. 10 years ago, that was absolutely impossible. So there is an awareness, but this is because of people seeing that the business models are changing. I in Central Europe talked to a bank a couple of weeks ago, and the chair of the board, CEO, they said to me, he said, Arie, in Central Europe, we're a little bit behind on Western Europe, but we have to start now, otherwise we are too late. And I think that was a very, very good conclusion from his side. Just the awareness, hey, we have to do this differently, because the world is not as the way as the world used to be, period, because of technology and what it brings.
All right. Thank you very much.
Kick their ass. Yeah, okay. Well, last question here, right? Yeah. This requires different skills, right?
Okay, thanks for your time and your words. Okay, what are the steps or the keys to help to change in the legal department in a big company?
I have to be very careful what I said, because I'm talking to a lawyer now, right? Because before I know it, I'm in trouble. No. Now here comes the magical answer. They're no different than anyone else. The mindset is different, right? Yeah. I gave the example of the European Space Agency, which is an awesome organization, but they are so much into the details, and they are so paradigms, so used to have all those. So that's a difficult one. So if you take a legal department, for me, there are two things that you do in a legal department. You have, let's say, projects in the legal department themselves, things that have to be done, but also you have people from the legal department participating in other projects because they have to approve something or that kind of thing. And this is the ideal combination for the Agile project management framework, where you build a role model, where you bring people who have this kind of responsibility. Because what we tend to do in working, if you build a new software solution, whatever you do, right? So there's a legal aspect that has to be checked, right? So what we do is we make it, and then the legal department will say if it's right or wrong, and you get the changes. What you do, and you don't want it because you're done, and then they say it's wrong, and you have a delay because you have to do rework. So what you do is you go from the beginning, you take the legal, but also operations and also any kind of other organizations that checking at the end, you take them from the beginning into the process. And instead of having the power to say it's wrong what you did, you said, no, this is a team. You're part of the team, and your responsibility is that at the end of every sprint, everything that is delivered is according to the law. So they are co-responsible. I know a very good trainer who can do that training with the legal department.
Thank you very much. Have been great, really great to have you, all of you asking questions, all of you listening. Have been a pleasure have you here, Arie. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now we're gonna grab some beers on the bar up there. If you wanna come.
Beer. I hear beer. Good.
Beer. Yeah.
Awesome. Guys, thank you
So-
very much for your patience, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Beer. Good.